In this lesson, we're going to look at how to use our scene data from our Cinema 4D file to add debris and cracks on the ground and smoke that match when the type falls on the ground and when the robot stomps on the ground. Here's a setup for the cracks. We are using a really simple image, and this is actually an image created out of the cracks on the environment but rendered from the top view. So I took these cracks right here, all these geo, and rendered it for the top view, from the top view as an occlusion pass, in that I'm using that along with, let's go into this comp, I'm using that along with our camera and a couple of mats, the mat for the tube and the mat for the product, to mask out our cracks, and they're also timed to match when the robot stomps on the ground. We can bring our pre-render of our robot, and then we can see how this matches. Actually, this is supposed to match the environment build. So let's take this and line it up at the end. You're going to see that when the type falls, let's lower the opacity there. When the type falls, these cracks animate on. Really simple effect. Take the cracks, parent them to our null, or set them up in 3D space so they're attached to the ground, and then just animate it. Then these are being multiplied over everything, and then I have the pre-rendered sequence here if you want to see. This is already with the lighting from a previous shot, a previous lesson, and you can see how it looks like. There's a crack happening when these things hit the ground. Yeah. So pretty good, pretty simple to set up. I don't think we needed to spend a whole lesson just trying to explain that. So let's move on to our smoke comp. And this is where I created all the smoke and debris for this shot. Since these are really time-consuming effects, I pre-render them so I can show them to you. And I'm going to walk you guys through how I build them, trying to condense all of that information into one single lesson rather than splitting it into many. So again, we extracted all the camera data from our Cinema 4D scene. We have it right here. And then we started with something really simple as our particular smoke on the left side. Now, let's make some space so we can see it. Particular setup for smoke, it's really simple. I'm going to be sharing with you guys two presets, one for the flying debris and then another one for this smoke. I think the key for adding smoke is adding shadows. Let's go here and press U twice so we can look at the settings that we tweaked. So we have, at the moment, when the robot stomps on the ground, we have a few particles shooting out. And then we have our rotation set to 90 so they shoot upwards. Slow velocity, the size on our box emitter to match roughly the area where that geometry breaks. Our particle life set to 4. Our type of particle is going to be a cloudlet, which is what I always use for smoke effects. Our size set to really low and high random. And another important thing is to set our opacity really low so we have that smoke showing through and transparent. Now you can see all the self-shadowing happening there. Oops. Let's just undo what we did. Scroll down, keep looking, And then we have here under shading our shadow LED for main turned on with all these settings that will give us those nice self shadowing on each particle. Then we have our gravity going up and slight wind and air resistance and some turbulence on the position. That alone gets us all of these effects. Let's play it. And then another important thing is to use our depth pass in order to clip the areas where we want this effect to be seen. That way it feels like it's interacting with the scene. So I took my depth pass right here and crushed the levels a little bit to get roughly a matte for the area where I want that to show up. Then let's move on to the other particle system, which I just took this, moved it to the right a little bit more to match the position of this one, and we are having the same situation. The shadow LED, the position, the amount of particles shooting out is really high in the first frame, and then they just slowly fade away and move upwards, and the gravity pulls them down and they disappear. So really simple setup. Once you guys get the preset, you will be able to see how I build them. Really simple settings. Then we have here our debris. Let's play that. Really simple. We have our emitter that starts roughly about the center where this is supposed to happen. Probably don't need a fractal noise. And then it shoots out a bunch of particles the first time. Let's just lower this so we can see the debris a little bit clearer. Yeah, there we go. Then we have our direction spread a little bit bigger than 20, which is the default, just so they have a bigger area to cover. Then our velocity is at 35, and that is combined with our gravity at 75, so they shoot up really fast at the beginning, and then they fall on the ground and bounce. For bounce, we created a floor layer, which is right here. Let's see. Right here. And that's going to be used as a bounce object. Right here, so when you have the debris falling out, flying out, they bounce on the ground. Really simple effect. Then I took that and duplicated it and scaled it down and changed the color so we get some that are white, some that are blue. And let's move on to the next one. Again, took that debris, moved it to the right to roughly match that position. And again, we're using depth mattes for every single one of these to get a bit more better interaction. And again, this is the other smoke, same setup, just moved it to match there, and with our depth pass created a custom matte to show that through the environment. And the last one, it's this big smoke moving across the back of the stage. And for this, I took that original setup for this other smoke explosions and just tweaked the settings and reduced the speed and added a bit more particles to the scene and a wind that moves them to the right. And then when all of that gets pre-rendered, we end up with something like this. Pretty cool effect. And if you can notice, it has an alpha channel. When we play this over our comp, it looks pretty believable. And then one thing you guys are going to notice is that when applying really drastic color corrections to our depth pass, we're going to be getting some hard edges, like it happens here and here. But because this smoke is so transparent, once this gets combed over, it's not going to be that noticeable. If anything, we will probably blur these depth mattes a little bit to fix some of that hard edges. So on this lesson, we looked at a quick setup that I did for creating debris and smoke so it interacts with our robot and our type when it falls. I'm also sharing these presets with you guys so you guys can easily create all these effects just by applying this and relinking the emitter to the correct null position that you want.